Back in 2012, Nickelodeon released their first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles show called, well, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Very original name, guys. I used to love this show as a kid, and honestly, I still do to this day. But, like all great shows, they eventually came to end. But Nickelodeon couldn't just let the show end, they need to make money. So they announced a reboot. Now, I'm not gonna lie, 2017 me didn't really know what a reboot was. Like, I just assumed they were gonna continue 2012 again, but like in 2D now or something.
Instead, we would be getting a completely new show called Rise of the TMNT. This one would be a lot more comedic in nature and would fit with what Nickelodeon wanted from the franchise at the time. Now, I wasn't really sure what to think of Rise when it first came out, whether that be the designs or the stigma around reboots at the time. Despite all this though, I ended up watching the show in 2018 and I really enjoyed it. In fact, I think it's my second favorite TMNT show overall. Here's the ranking if you're interested. And while I ended up liking the show, not everyone felt the same way, which really confused me. I was always wondering what makes this show so divisive in the fandom. Well, I believe it's time for me to find out. I'm going to be breaking down each episode, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work, and why I personally enjoy the show, and why some people don't enjoy the show. Let's get to it then. Sorry for the rush intro. It's been like 12 years. I have no clue how to YouTube anymore.
Big Apple, 3 a.m.
Episode 1, Mystic Mayhem, is really good, but it's not perfect. While it's an okay introduction for newer fans, it kind of leaves older fans a bit confused of the structure of the episode. For example, unlike 2012 48/7 shows, this episode doesn't immediately tell us the Turtles' origins. Instead, it takes a different approach, where it slowly tells us their origin story over the course of several episodes. So there's a bit of a mystery going on, and we, the audience, have to figure it out as we watch the show. This isn't actually a bad thing. Lots of TV shows have this, where they'll have a mystery going on in the background that the audience can piece together as they watch the show, and more information gets revealed. The problem appears when very basic information doesn't really get told to us within this first episode. We don't know what the Turtles' relationship with Splinter really is, we don't know how they're mutated, we don't know how they met April, and we don't even know how they're brothers if they're all different species of turtle. Yes, a lot of this information does get revealed later on, but for the first time viewer, they're going to be very confused and wondering why is everything so different to the usual TMNT stuff. Speaking of different, let's actually take a moment to look at our cast of characters and see what they're like. Let's start off with the leader of the group, Raph. Yeah, that's the first major difference with this version. Raphael is actually the leader of the team. Because of his new role as leader, his usual anger issues takes a backseat in this version, and we get to focus more on him being a responsible big brother. I'm actually okay with this choice, since one, Raph being leader was never meant to be a permanent thing in the show, and giving Raph the role of leader has him do something interesting other than being angry all the time. Not to mention, it's not like his anger has been completely erased from his character. He still gets angry when it makes sense. I appreciate the writers going out their way to make Raph a more layered character in this version. And to be clear, that's not me saying that Raph isn't a layered character in other versions of TMNT. I just appreciate this version for making him leader for basically the entire show's run, and seeing how he deals with that mentally. But anyways, now that Raph's the leader, what exactly is Leo's role in the team now? Rise Leo, without the responsibilities and pressures of being a leader, has basically turned into a second Mikey now. Because of this, we get to explore a new side of Leo, one that doesn't have to worry about the expectations of being the oldest brother, or being the leader, or even being the best ninja. Because of this, he kind of overcompensates on everything else. And a lot of the show and movie is dedicated to him becoming worthy of the leader role within the team. Up next is Donatello. Rice Donnie is basically a low-key criminal in this show. There are multiple scenes of him stealing stuff, or doing morally dubious, criminal activity. Which, in this show, is how he pays for all of his high-tech gadgets, like the turtle tank, his tech bow, and so on. Donnie's really funny in this show, and I really appreciate the writers for giving him a lot more of a personality than some other versions. Again, very similar to Raph, Rice tries answering the question of what Donnie would be like without some of his usual traits, like being the smartest turtle or being the gadget guy. Next is Mikey, who in this show is the youngest brother, and not much is really different to usual versions of Mikey. He's still a good version, but he's not really as standout as the other cast in my opinion. One thing I love is how compassionate this version is to mutants and also family members. Continuing from 2012, April in this show is actually a teenager instead of an adult like some other versions. In Rise, April is basically treated like a fifth turtle almost. She's just a natural part of the family, and the turtles appreciate her a lot. I really like how the writers treat this version of April. They don't feel the need to do anything extra to make this version interesting, like some other interpretations. For example, in the Michael Bay movies, the turtles were April's pets, which doesn't really add anything that much. It's just kind of something they want to put in to have her be more important, I guess. Or in 2012, they had April be somewhat half human, half mutant, and also have psychic powers, and also be like very important to the Krang. Like there's too many layers, and they didn't need to add all this stuff. To me, that just feels like them adding too many things because they don't know how to make this character interesting, and they're just like, let's throw whatever we can at the wall and see what sticks. Up next is Splinter, and you know what, I'm just gonna skip this one. But yeah, just gonna skip it. Okay. We first get introduced to the turtles as they're doing cannonballs on this random rooftop. On their way home, they discover this mutant-looking dog thingy who's being kidnapped. When they pursue the kidnappers, they discover this hidden city deep under New York. While exploring the hidden city, they found this guy called Baron Draxum, who's this warrior alchemist who wants to destroy the human race using an army of mutants. And to do this, he uses these things called Uskios, which are basically just mosquitoes, but with, mutagen inside of them. The turtles are obviously against this, so they defeat him in battle. And by defeat him, I mean a rock falls on him, and the lab blows up, and a bunch of Uskios get sent into the city, and the turtles just leave. Oh, and the turtles also find these mystic weapons when they ransack and loot Draxum's house. Well, besides Donnie, he decides to keep his tech bow because he's in love with his own tech. So that was episode 1 of Rise. Overall, I think it was pretty alright, but it suffers a bit with introducing older fans to this new universe. There's definitely still a lot of potential here though. Overall, I would give this first episode a 6 out of 10. But anyways, now that I've reviewed the first episode, it's time to add some actual structure to this video. From now on, we're going to break down each episode into sections, starting with the plot, characterization, and fun facts. I've already covered the plot and characterization in this first episode, so let's talk about the fun facts.
Despite being used a bit in the pre-release of the show, April being able to ride Donnie's battle shell like a scooter in the air never gets used past this episode, which is kind of weird in my opinion. You would think that would be used more often, but oh well. Draxum hints that he was the one that made the turtles in this first episode, which makes this one of the few versions where the turtles weren't made by an accident and were actually made intentionally by scientists. Or one scientist in this case, I guess. In Splinter's Do Not Touch cabinet, we can see a teapot. Now that may seem completely pointless now, but don't worry guys, just keep that in mind. It's going to be very important later on. I think that's pretty much episode 1 over. Let's not waste any more time and go straight into episode 2